Hey everyone, okay, we've got a bit of an interesting win on the consumer rights front in the games industry. And this is actually not the sort of thing that I would have expected to happen.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Some quiet concerns that I don't think anyone really loudly had are actually being addressed thanks to, surprisingly, a UK agency.
Yeah, I know, funny stuff, but
Indeed.
these things can have ripples, wasn't it? The Dutch, they started doing a few things around loot boxes, and then we sort of we started to see some things change.
Yeah, that's one thing actually. Where are the loot boxes? I mean, obviously they still exist in games that have them, but there's certainly been less of a conversation around them. They've certainly been less right in your face as a consumer, and I think that's a case where you put a little bit of pressure on, especially when you say the lawmakers are watching, and then companies will get a little bit cold feet around things. And this may have started thanks to the CMA.
Yeah. Now, for the most part, whenever we buy a subscription service, and then sometimes we'll forget about the renewal. Usually when that happens, I kind of think to myself, oh, Michael, you're such a dipshit. I can't believe you did that. You have been subscribed to Star Wars The Old Republic for 7 months and you haven't played it. Why have you done this? So usually I just think, well, that's obviously my fault. How stupid of me.
But
now things get a bit interesting. So months after Microsoft's changes, Sony and Nintendo have been pressured into being slightly less predatory with their subscriptions. And Matt, just for everybody, because not everybody is on, Game Pass or whatever, Microsoft's changes. Fill us in.
yeah, so Microsoft, they recently changed it to be more transparent, more upfront, and this is a direct result of this investigation that the CMA have been doing. But they've changed it so you can cancel your recurring 12-month contract. They'll announce that you have one renewing up ahead of time, and you'll get a pro rata refund. Pro rata meaning in proportion. So say you've used a couple months of your sub, but you want to cancel, you'll get a lot of it back, or more of it back. If you've only like a month in, oh shit, I didn't cancel that. Can I cancel? Yeah, you'll get 11 months back. It's a point where I think I cancelled one of my Game Pass I think it was like a week before the month ended, and I got the whole month back. I was like, that's not normal.
You didn't have to do that.
Yeah, you didn't have to do that. But that's the thing where they didn't have to do it legally, but they're on the side of caution going, well, we don't want this to be taken away from us, so we have to go for it. And they have the best system that I've seen because of these changes in January, which is they contact people who haven't been playing but they're still paying, and they just basically are like, yeah, this isn't our money yet, we haven't earned it yet, we'll be nice to you about it. And a lot of those changes are directly because of the CMA putting this little pressure on and starting this investigation in the past, and now they've moved into Sony and Nintendo, who are not responding just as well. They're responding a little bit more like, yeah, fuck it, we'll do some changes, but it's still the case of this thing that we've all kind of accepted is actually being looked at and the pressure's being applied. Yeah. I think that's honestly great.
This isn't a sexy story, but this is great for our rights.
Yep, exactly.
And I think that's why it's important to talk about. So the Competition and Markets Authority, which is a UK organization, they were investigating the online gaming sector, and they were particularly concerned that people might find themselves locked into paying for services they no longer want or use.
Yep.
Warlow 6-month subscription. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough today. So the TLDR here basically is when subs to, services are, automatically renewing a whole bunch, or they're kind of hard to cancel, the CMA thinks that's bullshit.
Yeah,
and
so.
The reason why I bring up the Warlow sub, first off, loads of people do just get, basically Blizzard heavily incentivizes you to get the 6-month sub because you get a mount with it, and sometimes other goodies like in Hearthstone.
That's cheaper, yeah.
And to be fair to them, that is a reasonable deal.
Yep.
Whenever the annual pass came out, where you got Diablo 3, your Warcraft subscription, a bunch of other things, I thought to myself, well, I'll be playing Warcraft for all this time. I'd like Diablo 3. This is a good deal for me. So I got it, and it didn't feel like a scheme or anything. So, I don't think the 6-month sub fundamentally is a scheme or anything. They're absolutely right to do that. And if they want to incentivize people into the little segment that, makes the most sense, then that's totally fine. Yeah. The problem is when the communications aren't there, whenever maybe some of the confidence in the product isn't there, that's when there starts to be an issue. Yeah. And I think that's just one of the interesting things where that sub would have felt pretty good actually in the Legion expansion, but more recently it hasn't. And I think a world where this sort of thing is the sort of thing they'd be strong-armed into, that would just be very interesting, the implications it would have on their business model.
Yeah, it would very much mean that, as an example, if this was forced, okay, we've done the month of content that's in this patch that you asked us a 6-month sub for, where's the rest? And they go, oh yeah, at the end, 6 or 7 months time you'll have more content. Then you go, well, I now feel trapped in this. I've paid ahead of time and I no longer want this product, which is recurring billing, which is a recurring access to a service. I don't want this anymore. Can I turn it off? With pressure being applied here, there is a world in the future where it is just, yeah, you have the right to cancel this.
Yeah. So I guess in that case, you'd be pro rata refunded, but also you would lose the amount.
Yeah,
You would have to lose the amount for that to be fair.
That's the stuff where the mountain stuff kind of make it a little bit more complicated as opposed to just a straight up collection of services. But it's all under the same thing of like the kind of battle pass where you buy a battle pass and that's not you get the enjoyment out of this immediately. It's now you feel financially locked into playing this more and being in the monetized service for a lot longer and a lot more regularly. And that's a kind of thing where this is a little bit different, but that's the kind of tactic they go for with all this stuff.
So like with the loot box, it was bing, bing, wahoo, woo, look what you're going to get. Yeah. Give me another hit.
Yeah.
And that's what people be doing. Like actually going into that fucking pull the lever. Yeah. Almost like a...
hit the lever.
Yeah, almost like that. So that's what the loot boxes were totally doing for you. The battle pass, though, is basically just... I have to unlock the value from the purchase that I've made. Now I feel locked in. So, the Battle Pass format is also psychologically interesting, like the loot boxes are.
Yes.
So, in a world where you can get a pro rata refund from Microsoft, what does that mean for like buying a Battle Pass? I mean, it would just mean you bought the Battle Pass and that would be that, but it brings up some like interesting little philosophical things over what consumers actually are expected to pay for.
Absolutely.
But when we go into this for Sony, then. Because we're shortening this for brevity because legal speak is fucking boring. Sony shall, within 60 working days of the date of this undertaking, identify those consumers with a relevant contract who have been inactive for 12 or more consecutive months, and they will take these actions. So they'll send a communication by email, and then will let them know the actions that the consumer may take to access their account to stop the recurring billing if they want to. And if they are inactive for another 12 months, Sony will actually turn off their recurring billing.
Yep.
I think that's, okay, it's 2 years of money they didn't earn, but actually having an off switch be built into the system, that's a pretty cool thing to have happen.
Yep, exactly. Especially when you think about Sony and their obviously they're moving to their the PlayStation Plus revamp version, which has the higher tier, which is more expensive. But I'm amazed every single year because maybe 2017, maybe 2018 or so, I started getting PS Plus yearly because it was like on a deep discount one year, and now it renews every November. And I'm always aware, like, oh, November, yeah, my PS Plus is renewing at some point this month, and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to go with it. But I get the email saying, oh yeah, you've just renewed. There's your money, no refunds. I'm like, that's a bit bullshit. How am I supposed to remember to turn this off every year? Obviously, just write it down somewhere. But it's that thing where like, without this there, you could very easily just lose 50 quid a month or 50 quid a year to Sony and not know. That's the thing where like now there's like literally a defense against it.
Now, I don't want to just belabor, point 4 here, but it's basically just more details as to how this stuff works. And overall, the upshot here is that Sony are going to do at least one sweep for inactive customers. They're going to see how that pans out. Then they're going to report back to the CMA in the UK, which, you could say that's not good enough. I think that'll be a fair enough thing to hold. Yeah. But it's better than nothing. It's moving in the right direction, and this is all like really, really good pro-consumer stuff.
Absolutely.
As we move on to Nintendo then, so the CMA engaged with Nintendo. They actually changed their business practices during the course of the investigation so that the Switch Online service is no longer sold with automatic renewal as the default option, so people will not be automatically entered into a renewing contract, and that does help alleviate some of the CMA concerns. So look, it would be good if they did the same thing as Sony, but hey, it's, I suppose, a bit of progress. I think that's quite good, especially like with Nintendo. I mean, it's funny, even though Nintendo is now the home of like Senran Kagura Reflections, you still think of Nintendo as being something like, parents will kind of like buy and set up in many cases. Though maybe that's changing now that the Switch is so super popular.
Maybe a little bit, but yeah.
But anyway, look, it's good. And obviously the Xbox stuff we've already covered, but it's a really great system and, massive. Obviously, sides of this are in their own interest, but whenever their interests align with our interests, and it makes good shit happen, that's really good. You could maybe say that one of the jobs of all of these agencies and government and stuff is to help their interests and our interests be in alignment so that these good things can happen. So that's all really good from them.
Absolutely.
Now, as for the investigation, to give you a bit of flavor, it took 3 years to get to this.
Which is a long time, like, but
Yeah. Their chief concerns basically are the contracts unfair? Do the company's terms give them just super big discretion to change the quality of the deal? Maybe greatly reducing the number of games included in a Game Pass.
I think that happened once, maybe with Sony, where it was like they dropped the number of games or something. It was because they changed how PS Plus worked, and it was like less value for a specific segment. But obviously you have no way to get out. So if you just started if you're 3 months into a 12-month sub for PS Plus, and it's like, now you get one less of, whenever they pulled the PS3 and Vita games, it's like, you just don't have those anymore. You're like, but that's why I bought the subscription. I guess I'm just shit out of luck. So that's one of the things like that could have possibly happened there, but obviously didn't.
Yeah. Another then was just the ease of obtaining a refund, and then how fair is the auto-renewal process, which is something we've seen, say, Sony address a bit more, and I think Microsoft take excellent proactive steps towards. So these things are all addressed the same way across the different companies. Ultimately here, the law is the deciding factor. So I think all these companies have kind of worked out what is their way of addressing this that works for their own interests. But I think we see Microsoft's whole shtick really coming through here. They do operate in a more pro-consumer manner. They really seem to be about delivering a fuck ton of value in a way that only they can, perhaps because they're Microsoft, they're so big. That's how they can play really well in this market right now, when they don't yet have the Horizons and the Last of Us's and those humongous cultural events. They're playing a different game, and it's a game that I think is working out really well for their customers.
Yep, and that's exactly it. Where obviously, you get to look at this and you get to go, okay, we see what Xbox did months in advance, very early. Obviously, this investigation's coming to a close, but they clearly went, okay, there's some other example that was similar to this that I was reminded of, but it's the idea of someone the CMA clearly came to Microsoft, went, we don't like this very much, and they were like, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, good point. We'll fix a load of this stuff up. Does this seem okay to you? Yeah, sweet. Whereas I think it feels a little bit from Nintendo and Sony like they're like, well, we don't want you to start adding stuff to the law, so we will. We'll move slightly to be on the side of the consumers here. But that's the thing, where it's just the CMA are just like, we know we can't call you out for this because it's not illegal, but we're a UK government agency. We get to say, we might start changing the law based on this if you don't, you're almost wielding that kind of soft threat of, do what we say or we'll make it legal.
Yeah. And in fairness, the statutory rights that consumers have in this country are pretty... Yeah, they're great. Pretty damn good.
Yep. So that's the thing. I think so much of it comes down to no one's really challenged these, and we've kind of accepted them a little bit. Because if you go, especially with how UK public news and opinion kind of works, where all it takes is one bad story to really get government super involved. It's a case of, someone has a really, obviously
we do have ridiculous tabloids.
Yeah, like the loot box stuff with, all the, this kid, there's 10,000 on FIFA loot boxes and they can't get a refund from the company, and that's just absolute headline news for a long time, and the government started to get really involved. I think there's that case of all it takes is someone has a big think piece in a paper about, I've been subbed to this and they've just taken my money for months. How's this fair? And that's the kind of thing where one of the good things about the UK and all of these places having UK and Europe based stuff is that's where the real push forward can come. It's this is where the consumer rights can actually really get a solid foot ground. That's wonderful.
Not to be a weird exceptionalist about our side of the pond, because it's very easy to. I mean, we're all citizens of. We all live in the fucking planet, right? Yeah. Most importantly of all, in my opinion. Yeah. But there is certainly a very pervasive view that, capitalism has been corrupted and infiltrated by corporatism, tremendously over in the States. And it's quite frustrating that, we think about some things that technically on paper could be good, like GDPR, but ultimately it's just meant that the EU's biggest tech export has been an annoying pop-up that drives all of us mad.
Yeah.
But
the heart was in the right place.
It's that thing where the protection of the workers, maternity leave, paternity leave, these things, these examples of consumer protection things.
Yeah. Also,
you can't count on them coming from the States. Yeah. They sort of do end up coming from I suppose now UK and EU.
Yeah, especially when it comes to for as far as gamers are largely concerned, we're concerned the digital stuff. So much of the digital rights and the oh yeah, this isn't a, well, literally it's technically a Steam subscriber agreement for like, you have access to your game, but there's lots of conversations and lots of like examples in law of, no, you've sold this as a sale, so it does belong to the person, and obviously that hasn't reached like its zenith in terms of law, but there's definitely so much European talk about what rights do consumers literally have in digital products. And obviously, I think if Europe didn't really get involved, I imagine it would be, there'd be enough lobbying going on in the US to kind of make that a problem for us substantially worse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So look, that's really it for the video. I think the core point here is you can leave today with not much having changed for, your literal like life and how you play games, but at least with a little bit of knowledge that the way that you're going to be treated by these companies is now a little bit better than it was a few months ago.
Yep.
I think that's what progress actually looks like when you are within progress as opposed to looking back in progress. So I think that's a great win that we can all take. And that's it for the video.
Yeah, I mean, a year or two from now, maybe, your sub will just ask you every month if you want to keep it going. That's maybe not 2 years, maybe 5 years, but that's a future that we definitely have now in front of us.
Yeah.
Where you now actually get treated like a person as opposed to just a wallet.
Yeah, so wonderful news. That's it for us. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next video.